I stood in the back of the church, watching him slip the ring onto my sister's finger, the same ring he'd promised to me 6 months ago. The stained glass windows cast a kaleidoscope of colors across the polished pews, but all I saw was red, a searing, blinding red that matched the rage burning in my chest. My heart, once so full of love for Elias, now felt like a hollowed-out cavern, echoing with the sound of their vows. Serena, my younger sister, radiant in white, smiled up at him, her eyes sparkling with a triumph that cut deeper than any blade. She knew. She always knew. And Elias, my Elias, looked at her with an adoration that had once been mine. The world tilted, and I gripped the cold stone pillar, fighting the urge to scream, to shatter the illusion of their perfect day. This was supposed to be my day. This was supposed to be my life. But he had chosen her beauty, and I was left with nothing but the bitter taste of betrayal. Our story, Elias's and mine, began like a fairy tale. We met at a charity gala, a whirlwind of silk and champagne. He was everything I had ever dreamed of. Charming, intelligent, with eyes that held a depth I found utterly captivating. We fell in love quickly, passionately, our souls intertwining with an intensity that felt destined. He spoke of a future, of a grand estate, of children with my eyes and his smile. I believed him. Every word. He proposed on a moonlit night, kneeling in a garden filled with roses, presenting a ring that had been his grandmother's, a delicate silver band with a single, luminous pearl. It was perfect. Our families, both old money, though his far grander, approved. My parents, always a little distant, seemed genuinely pleased. My sister, Serena, however, was a different story. Serena was always the favored one, the dazzling star of our family. She possessed a beauty that was undeniable, a vivacious spirit that drew all eyes to her. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, the scholar, content with my books and my art. I was pretty enough, I suppose, but never radiant like Serena. She was the sun, and I, merely a moon reflecting her light. When Elias entered my life, I felt, for the first time, truly seen, truly cherished for who I was. But Serena, with her insatiable need for attention, couldn't bear to see me happy. She began subtly, innocently at first. A lingering touch on Elias's arm, a shared laugh that excluded me, a casual compliment about his strength or his wit that felt just a little too intimate. I dismissed it, of course. She was my sister. He loved me. But the seeds of doubt, once planted, began to sprout. Elias started spending more time at our family estate, ostensibly to discuss wedding plans, but increasingly, he found himself in Serena's company. They would ride horses together, their laughter echoing through the stables. They would discuss art and literature, topics I had once shared exclusively with him. He began to compare us, subtly at first. "Why, Serena has such a vibrant energy, doesn't she?" Or, "Your sister has a way of lighting up a room." My heart would clench, a cold dread seeping into my bones. I tried to talk to him, to express my fears, but he would dismiss them with a wave of his hand, calling me insecure, jealous. "She's your sister, my love. Don't be so dramatic." His words, once so comforting, now felt like a shield, protecting his growing deception. The shift was agonizingly slow, a cruel unraveling of everything I held dear. The pearl ring, once a symbol of our eternal love, began to feel like a heavy burden on my finger. Elias grew distant, his excuses for missed dates more frequent, his eyes avoiding mine. I confronted Serena, my voice trembling with a mixture of accusation and desperation. She feigned innocence, her beautiful eyes wide and guileless. "Oh, darling, you're imagining things. Elias and I are just friends. He's simply trying to make me feel welcome in the family." Her words were honeyed poison, designed to make me doubt my own sanity. My parents, ever blind to Serena's manipulations, sided with her, chastising me for my unfounded jealousy. I was alone, watching my world crumble around me, powerless to stop it. Then came the day of the announcement. Not our announcement, but theirs. I received an invitation, elegantly embossed, to a garden party at Elias's family estate. I assumed it was for a pre-wedding celebration, a final gathering before our big day. I dressed with care, a fragile hope flickering in my chest that perhaps, just perhaps, Elias would finally reassure me, would dispel the dark clouds that had gathered over our relationship. But as I stepped onto the manicured lawns, I saw them. Elias, standing beside Serena, his arm possessively around her waist, a dazzling diamond sparkling on her finger. Not the pearl, a new, far grander stone. My breath hitched. The murmurs of the guests, the congratulatory smiles, the flash of cameras, it all hit me like a physical blow. Elias caught my eye, a fleeting look of discomfort, quickly replaced by a forced smile as he turned back to Serena. My sister, my own blood, looked directly at me, a triumphant smirk playing on her lips. The humiliation was absolute, a public execution of my heart and soul. I felt every gaze, every whisper, every pitying glance. My parents, who had arrived earlier, were beaming, oblivious to the wreckage of my life. They embraced Elias and Serena, congratulating them on their beautiful union. It was as if I had ceased to exist, a ghost at my own funeral. I wanted to run, to hide, to disappear from the face of the earth. But some stubborn pride, some last vestige of my former self, kept me rooted to the spot. I watched as Elias, my Elias, kissed Serena, sealing their betrayal with a public display of affection. The world spun, and I felt a coldness spread through my veins, a numbness that was almost a relief. I managed to slip away, unnoticed, my vision blurred by unshed tears, my heart a shattered mess. The wedding day itself was a blur of agony. My parents, insisting on appearances, had forced me to attend. "It's your sister's big day, darling. You must be there." Their words were a cruel mockery. I sat in the back, a dark shadow amidst the joyous celebration. My black dress a stark contrast to the pastel hues of the other guests. Every hymn, every prayer, every word of their vows felt like a fresh stab to my heart. I watched Elias, handsome and confident, his eyes fixed on Serena, who glowed with an almost ethereal beauty. She was everything I wasn't, everything he now desired. When he slipped that ring onto her finger, the very ring he had once promised me, a silent scream tore through my soul. It wasn't just a ring. It was the symbol of my broken dreams, my shattered trust, my utter humiliation. The kiss, long and passionate, was the final nail in my coffin. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I could only feel the crushing weight of my own insignificance. I fled the church, not caring who saw me, not caring about the scandal. I ran through the manicured gardens, past the laughing guests, past the opulent cars, until I reached the edge of the estate, where the ancient woods began. The trees, gnarled and dark, seemed to welcome my despair. I ran deeper, blindly, until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I collapsed beneath a sprawling oak, its branches like skeletal arms reaching towards the bruised twilight sky. Tears, hot and bitter, streamed down my face, washing away the last vestiges of my innocence. I cried until there were no more tears left, until my throat was raw and my body ached with a profound emptiness. I wished for death, for oblivion, for anything to erase the pain. It was then, in the deepest hour of my despair, that he appeared, a shadow detaching itself from the deeper gloom of the forest. He was tall, impossibly elegant, with eyes that glowed like embers in the fading light. His features were sharp, aristocratic, etched with an ancient sorrow and an even more ancient power. He moved with a silent grace that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. I should have been afraid, but fear had been replaced by a profound apathy. He knelt before me, his gaze piercing through my broken facade, seeing the raw wound of my soul. "Such exquisite pain," he murmured, his voice a silken caress that sent shivers down my spine. A heart shattered by betrayal, a spirit yearning for retribution. He introduced himself as Lord Valerius, a name that resonated with forgotten histories and whispered legends. He spoke of my pain, of Elias's treachery, of Serena's deceit, with an understanding that chilled me to the bone. He knew. He saw everything. He offered me a choice. "You can remain as you are," he said, his voice laced with a subtle disdain. "A broken mortal, consumed by grief, watching your tormentors live out their stolen happiness. Or," he paused, his eyes gleaming with an ancient promise, "you can rise. You can shed this fragile skin, embrace true power, and become something more, something eternal, something beautiful, something that will make them regret the day they ever dared to humiliate you." The offer was intoxicating, a siren's call to my wounded spirit. Power, beauty, eternity, revenge. It was everything I craved, everything I needed to mend the gaping hole in my soul. My humanity, my fragile, easily broken humanity, felt like a burden. What was there to lose? My love was gone. My family had abandoned me. My future was stolen. "What is the price?" I whispered, my voice hoarse. He smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips. "Your mortality, your humanity, and your blood, of course." He extended a hand, long and pale, his nails perfectly manicured. "Join me, my dear, and let us teach them the true meaning of regret. Desperation, fueled by a burning desire for vengeance, eclipsed all fear." I took his hand. The transformation was an agony beyond anything I could have imagined. His fangs, sharp and precise, pierced my neck, and a searing fire coursed through my veins. It felt like every cell in my body was being torn apart and then meticulously reassembled. My blood drained, replaced by something cold and potent, something ancient and alive. I screamed, a sound that was ripped from the depths of my being, but no one heard it in the depths of the forest. Darkness consumed me, a suffocating void, and I drifted in and out of consciousness, haunted by visions of Elias and Serena, their faces twisted in mocking smiles. When I finally awoke, it was to a world reborn. My senses were heightened, sharpened to an almost unbearable degree. I could hear the rustle of leaves miles away, the faint heartbeat of a deer in the distance, the scent of damp earth, of night-blooming jasmine, of distant human fear, filled my nostrils with an overwhelming intensity. My vision was no longer limited by the fading light. The night was as clear as day, every detail rendered with startling clarity. I felt a surge of strength, a coiled power in my limbs that had never existed before. My body, once soft and yielding, was now taut and resilient. I touched my face, my skin impossibly smooth, my features refined, sharpened, imbued with an ethereal beauty that was both captivating and dangerous. My eyes, once a soft hazel, now held a depth, a predatory gleam that reflected the ancient power within me. Lord Valerius, my sire, became my mentor. He taught me the ways of our kind, the ancient lore, the delicate balance of power and control. He showed me how to hunt, how to feed, how to blend seamlessly into the human world while remaining utterly apart from it. He taught me to control the hunger, to channel my newfound strength, to wield my allure as a weapon. He spoke of our lineage, of the ancient houses, of the intricate politics of the immortal world. I was a quick study, my mind, once consumed by grief, now sharp and focused, eager to absorb every lesson. The old me, the vulnerable, heartbroken girl, slowly faded, replaced by a creature of exquisite power and chilling resolve. Years passed, or perhaps decades. Time became a fluid concept in my new existence. I traveled the world, honing my abilities, mastering my charm, building my own network of influence. I learned to move through the shadows, to manipulate, to observe, to wait. The desire for revenge, once a raw, burning wound, had transformed into a cold, calculated strategy. It wasn't enough to simply hurt them. I wanted to dismantle their lives, piece by agonizing piece, until they understood the depth of the pain they had inflicted upon me. I wanted them to beg, to grovel, to realize the true cost of their betrayal. My beauty, once a source of insecurity, was now my most potent weapon, a shimmering veil that concealed the predator beneath. My confidence was absolute, forged in the fires of my transformation. I was no longer the moon reflecting another's light. I was a star, burning with my own fierce, eternal flame. The time for my return finally arrived. I chose a grand masquerade ball, hosted by one of the city's oldest and most influential families, a family Elias and Serena would undoubtedly attend, eager to flaunt their status. I arrived late, a figure cloaked in midnight blue velvet, my face partially obscured by an intricate silver mask. My entrance was subtle, yet it commanded attention. A hush fell over the room as I glided through the throng, every head turning, every eye drawn to my enigmatic presence. Whispers followed in my wake, questions about my identity, my origins. I felt their gazes, the mixture of awe and curiosity, and a thrill of anticipation course through me. Then I saw them. Elias, older now, a few lines etched around his eyes, but still undeniably handsome. Serena, still beautiful, but her vivacity seemed a little forced, a little brittle. They were laughing, surrounded by a circle of admirers, their hands intertwined. My heart, or what passed for it now, gave a cold, detached beat. I moved closer, my steps silent, my presence a growing pressure in the opulent ballroom. Elias looked up, his eyes scanning the room, and then they landed on me. His smile faltered, a flicker of confusion, then recognition, then a dawning horror spread across his face. Serena, following his gaze, turned, and her eyes widened, her laughter dying in her throat. I removed my mask slowly, deliberately, letting it drop to the polished marble floor with a soft clink. My face, perfectly preserved, eternally youthful, yet subtly changed, was revealed. The gasps were audible. Elias stumbled back, his hand flying to his mouth. "No," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "It can't be." Serena's face drained of color, her eyes darting between me and Elias, a primal fear seizing her features. I offered them a slow, chilling smile, a smile that promised both beauty and destruction. "Hello, Elias," I said, my voice a low, melodic hum that carried across the stunned silence of the ballroom. "And Serena, it's been a long time." The game had begun. I didn't confront them directly, not at first. My revenge was far more subtle, far more insidious. I began by weaving myself into their social circle, using my charm and influence to gain access to their lives. I became the enigmatic, alluring woman everyone wanted to know, the one whose past was shrouded in mystery. Elias, initially terrified, found himself drawn to me like a moth to a flame. He couldn't resist my allure. my intelligence, the undeniable connection that still lingered between us, twisted and corrupted though it was. He started seeking me out, under the guise of catching up. His eyes filled with a desperate longing he couldn't hide. Serena watched, her jealousy a palpable force, her insecurity growing with each stolen glance Elias cast my way. I began to dismantle Elias's life, piece by agonizing piece. I used my connections, my knowledge of the city's hidden networks, to subtly undermine his business ventures, to spread rumors that tarnished his reputation, to turn his allies against him. His fortune, once vast, began to dwindle. His once impeccable reputation became stained with whispers of scandal and mismanagement. He grew desperate, his handsome face etched with worry, his once confident demeanor replaced by a haunted anxiety. Serena, seeing their wealth and status slipping away, grew increasingly paranoid, lashing out at Elias, accusing him of infidelity, of incompetence. Their once perfect marriage began to fray, unraveling under the weight of my silent machinations. I watched them, a detached observer, as their world crumbled. Serena's beauty, once her greatest asset, seemed to fade in comparison to my eternal radiance. She tried to compete, to outshine me, but it was a futile effort. My allure was ancient, irresistible, a force she could never hope to match. She became a shadow of her former self, consumed by jealousy and fear, her once vibrant spirit replaced by a bitter resentment. Elias, desperate and broken, finally came to me. He found me in my private chambers, a grand Gothic space I had acquired, filled with shadows and ancient artifacts. He fell to his knees, his eyes pleading, his voice choked with despair. "Please," he begged. "I don't know what's happening. My business is failing. Serena hates me. My life is a ruin. Please, help me. You're the only one who can." I looked down at him, the man who had once promised me forever, the man who had shattered my heart, now reduced to a pathetic, groveling mess. His eyes, once so full of love for Serena, now held only desperation and a dawning realization of his colossal mistake. "You chose her beauty, Elias," I said, my voice soft, yet laced with an icy chill. "You cast me aside, humiliated me, left me for dead. Do you remember?" He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I remember. I was a fool, a blind, arrogant fool. Please, forgive me. I love you. I always loved you. I made a terrible mistake. Take me back. I'll leave Serena. I'll give you everything." I knelt before him, my face inches from his, my eyes burning with an ancient fire. "You loved her beauty," I corrected him, my voice a venomous whisper. "You never loved me. You loved the idea of me until something shinier came along. And now, you beg for my forgiveness, for my touch, for my salvation, because your world is falling apart." I leaned in closer, letting him feel the coldness of my breath, the subtle scent of blood that clung to me. "But I am no longer the girl you knew. That girl died the day you married my sister. I am something else now. Something you created." I watched his eyes widen as the full horror of my identity and the architect of his ruin finally dawned on him. "And you, Elias, will live with the consequences of your choices. You will watch your empire crumble, your love turn to ash, and you will know, every single day, that it was I who orchestrated your downfall." I left him there, a broken man, his pleas echoing in the empty chambers. My revenge was complete. Elias and Serena were left with nothing but the ruins of their stolen happiness, their lives shattered, their love a bitter, poisoned memory, their beauty, their wealth, their status, all gone, replaced by a desolate emptiness. I walked away from their crumbling world, not looking back, not feeling a flicker of regret. The satisfaction was profound, a deep, resonant hum in my immortal soul. But it wasn't just about them anymore. It was about me. My journey from a heartbroken mortal to a powerful, eternal being had transformed me in ways I could never have imagined. The pain, the humiliation, the betrayal, they had forged me into something stronger, something unbreakable. I had reclaimed my power, not just over them, but over myself. I was no longer defined by their choices, by their cruelty. I was defined by my own strength, my own will, my own eternal existence. I embraced my immortality, my freedom, my new purpose. The world was vast, filled with ancient secrets and untold possibilities. I was a sovereign of my own destiny, a creature of the night, beautiful and dangerous, forever free from the shackles of human weakness. My heart, once shattered, was now whole, filled not with love for another, but with an unyielding power and an absolute, serene control. I was finally, truly, alive.